10 important suttas explaining why every Buddhist must study the Tanglaha's words. Words from the singlest of minds. Aggressiveness. The Dhamma teaches the Dharma, to others only giving them the knowledge. When the talk is finished, aggressana, then I study my mind internally, quainten it, bring it to singleness, and concentrate it on the same sign of concentration as before, in which I constantly abide. 2. Words of immediately affect the Dharma. Good bhikkhus, so you have been guided by me with this Dharma, which is visible here and now, immediately effective, in inviting inspection, onward leading, to be experienced by the wise for themselves. 3 words that are so just, not otherwise. From the night he fully awakened monks until the night he attains final nirvana. In this internal, whatever he speaks, talks of, and expounds all that is just, not otherwise, in the Buddha's words. Words that should be studied and mastered. Smile of the drum peg. Bhikkhus, once in the past, Dasara had a kettle drum called the summoner. When the summoner became cracked, the Dasara inserted another peg. Eventually the time came when the summoner's original drumhead had disappeared and only a collection of pegs remained. So too, bhikkhus, the same thing will happen with the bhikkhus in the future. When those disciples spoken by the Tamat that are deep in meaning, subterranean, dealing with emptiness, are re-excited, they will not eager to listen to them, nor lend an ear to them, or apply their minds to understand them. And they will not think those teachings should be studied and mastered. But when those discourses are mere poetry composed by poets, beautiful in words, phrases created by outsiders, spoken by their disciples, are being recited, they will be eager to listen to them, will lend an ear to them, will apply their minds to understand them. And they will too think those teachings should be studied and mastered. In this way, bhikkhus, those disclosures spoken by the Dhamma are deep in meaning, subterranean, dealing with emptiness, will disappear. 5. Which should be studied, learned, and interrogated in the foremost assembly. Here, in this kind of assembly, when those disclosures are being recruited, are mere poetry composed by poets, beautiful in words and phrases, created by outsiders, spoken by disciples. The bhikkhus do not wish to listen to them, do not lend an ear to them, or apply their minds to understand them. They do not think those teachings should be studied and learned. But when those disclosures spoken by the Dhamma are being recited that are deep in meaning, words transcendent, connected with emptiness, the bhikkhus want to listen to them, lend an ear to them, and apply their minds to understand them. They think those teachings should be studied and learned, and having learned those teachings, they interrogated each other about them and examined them thoroughly, asking, how is this? What is the meaning of this? They disclose to others, and what is obscure and lead to this is unclear, and dispel the perplexity and numerosity perplexing points. And what is the assembly trained to vain walk, not to interrogate? Here is the kind of assembly when those disclosures spoken by the Dhamma are being recited and are deep in meaning, world transcending, connected with emptiness. The bhikkhus do not want to listen to them, do not lend an ear to them, or apply their minds to understand them. They do not think those teachings should be studied and learned. But when those disclosures are being recruited, that are mere poetry composed by poets, beautiful in words and phrases, created by outsiders, spoken by disciples. They want to listen to them, lend an ear to them, and apply their minds to understand them. They think those teachings should be studied and learned, and having learned those teachings, they do not interrogate each other about them, or examine them thoroughly, asking, "How is this? What is the meaning of this?" They do not disclose to others what is obscure, elude what is unclear, or dispel the perplexity about numerous perplexing points. This is called the assembly trained in vain talk, not interrogation. And what is the assembly trained in interrogation, not in vain talk? Here, in this kind of assembly, when those disclosures are being recruited, they are merely poetry composed by poets, beautiful in words and phrases, and created by outsiders, spoken by disciples. The bhikkhus do not want to listen to them, do not lend an ear to those teachings that should be studied and learned. But when those deep discussions spoken by the tathagata are being recited in the deep in meaning, world transcending, connected with emptiness, the bhikkhus want to listen to them, lend an ear to them, and apply their minds to understand them. They think those teachings should be studied and learned, and having learned those teachings, they should interrogate each other about them, and examine them thoroughly, asking, "How is this? What is the meaning of this?" They disclose to others what is obscure and intricate, with is unclear, and dispel the perplexity and numerous perplexing points. This is called the assembly trained in interrogation, not in vain talk. These bhikkhus are two kinds of assemblies. Of these two kinds of assemblies, as the assembly trained in interrogation, not in vain talk, is foremost. 6. Words to be undertook as decreed, not to be abolished. As long as these bhikkhus do not decree anything that has not been decreed, or abolished anything that has already been decreed, but undertaken and follow the training as they have been decreed, only growth is expected from them, not decline. 7 words of Organata of the path. The tathagata, the bhikkhu, the arahant, the perfect enlightened one, is originator of the path arisen before, the producer of the path unproduced before, declarer of the path undeclared before. He is known of the path, the discoverer of the path, the one skilled in the path, and his disciples now dwell following the path and become possessed after it. This bhikkhu is distinction, the disparity, the difference between the tathagata and the arahant, the perfect enlightened one and the bhikkhu liberated by wisdom. 8 words to be acquainted by, heard and respectfully taught to others. Here, the bhikkhus learn discourses that have been well acquired with the well set down words and phrases. When the words and phrases are well set down, the meaning of well interrupted. This is the first thing that leads to a good non-decline and non-disappearance of the good dharma. Again, those bhikkhus who are learned hears the heritage, experts on the dharma, experts on discipline, experts on outliness, experts effectively teach the discourse to others. When they have passed away, the discourses are not cut off at the root, for there are those who preserve them. This is the third thing that leads to the continuation of non-decline and non-despair of the good dharma. Only 2 of the 4 things that lead to the continuation, non-decline and disappearance of the good dharma are maintained here. 9 words that are comforted by the suttas and discipline. Suppose a monk were to say, "Friends, I hear and receive this from the Lord's own lips. This is the dharma, this is the discipline, this is the master teaching." Then, without approving or disapproving his words and expressions, should be carefully noted and compared with the status reviewing on the light of the discipline. If they on such comparison and review are found not to comfort the suttas and discipline. The conclusion must be confirmed. Rudely, this is not the word of the Buddha. It is wrongly understood by this monk, and the matter is to be rejected. But where on such a comparison and view they are found to comfort, to suttas or the discipline, the conclusion must be assured. This is the word of the Buddha. It has been rightly understood by the monk. Supposing a monk were to say, in such and such a place there is a committee with elders and distinguished teachers. I have heard you and received from that community. Then, monks, you should neither approve nor disapprove his words. Suppose, monk, were to say, in such and such a place there are many elders who learn better of tradition, who know the Dharma, the disciples, the code or rules. Suppose a monk were to say, in such a place and such a place there is one elder who is learned. I have heard and received this from that elder. But where on such comparison and review they are found to comfort, to the suttas and discipline, then the Buddha conclusion must be assuredly. This is the word of the Buddha. It has been rightly understood by this monk. 10 words of the Dharma and disciple, words to be dwelled on, with one's own island, as one's own refuge. Another, it may be that you will think the teacher secured has decreased. Now we have no teacher. It should not be seen like this, Another. For what I have thought and explained to you as a Dharma, as disciple will at my passing be your teacher. Those bhikkhus, Another, either now or after I'm gone, who dwell with themselves as their own island, with themselves as their own refuge, with other refuge, who dwell with the Dharma as their own island, with the Dharma as their refuge. No other refuge, it is of these bhikkhus Anada, who will be topmost of those keen on the training. Anada, when there are 2 men living under whom he then occurs with breath of good practice, he is the last man among them. Therefore, Anada, I say to you to continue this good practice instituted by me, and do not be the last man. List of abbreviations. AN. Bhikkhu runs.